Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
What's up, Hokie Nation, and welcome into episode 462 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Virginia Tech men's basketball picks up a huge victory over Virginia on New Year's Eve. The football coaching staff continues to take shape, and what does the transfer portal look like for the Hokies? All that and much more coming up on episode 462 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. And Happy New Year. We record on Thursday, January 1st, 2026 from the Tech Solutions Studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. Remember to like, subscribe, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Carter Hill. To my left is our lead analyst and columnist, Chris Coleman. Across the way, managing editor David Cunningham. Nick Brown, our director of media, is producing behind the scenes. We also have Giovanni Heater sitting in the room here, the former Tech Sideline podcast host, back in town for the week with Virginia Tech and Virginia before he heads to College Station, Texas in a couple weeks to start up at Texas A&M. So how's everybody's New Year's Eve? Good time? Good time in Blacksburg? Good couple of days? What about you, David?
I covered a triple overtime game, so I was exhausted. And I was talking to David Teal because he didn't get a chance to leave to drive back to 757 until like 7:45. So he was like, I was hoping I was going to get back for New Year's. So that's what happens when Virginia and Virginia Tech play a triple overtime game on New Year's Eve. Let's hope that doesn't ever happen again.
Yeah, I hope nobody had like 5 o'clock dinner reservations.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Because the game didn't end until about 5:15.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What a game in Castle yesterday. We'll start right there. Virginia Tech beats Virginia 95-85 in triple overtime. It's crazy, too, because you look at Virginia Tech, no Toby Lawal, no Tyler Johnson, no Antonio Dorn. We sat on this set a couple of days ago saying, man, this could be a tough one for Virginia Tech. And then you find out that Tyler Johnson isn't playing on top of the two guys that we thought were not going to be playing from the get-go. So what a win for the Hokies. Honestly, Chris, I was telling you last night, I've been going to basketball games at Virginia Tech for years. This may be, to me, one of the biggest wins in Castle Coliseum for a lot of different reasons. Maybe since the Duke game in 2018-19 when they beat that, granted he wasn't healthy, but they beat that Zion Williamson Duke team in Castle. Huge win for the Hokies, a memorable game in Castle Coliseum, and what a day in Blacksburg for sure.
That was one of those games you'll always remember forever, no matter what the outcome of the season was. I think it's like, for me, like my senior year, Virginia Tech's first year in the ACC, the Hokies beat Duke. I will always remember that game. I will always remember the game where Justin Robinson had 35 points against Syracuse when he made a school record 9 3-pointers in that game and also broke the assist record in that game. That's the best basketball game a Virginia Tech player has ever played as far as I'm concerned, and I'll always remember that game. And now I will always remember the triple overtime win over UVA on New Year's Eve without Tyler Johnson and without Toby Lawal. That's going to be one that you'll remember forever as a fan.
This was a great job by everyone involved. I look at this game, and we talked about it the other day. Virginia had, I thought, such an advantage on the inside. Really good offensive rebounding team, and maybe we didn't give enough credit to the Hokies' ability to offensive rebound. But I don't know that we had seen a really just overall great rebounding performance from them until yesterday. And to do so essentially with just two interior presences in Imani Hansberry and Christian Gerdak, who Gerdak had 19 rebounds. Hansberry had 17 or 16. Gerdak's the first Virginia Tech player with 19 boards in a game since Jeff Allen. I mean, you're talking about two guys essentially doing it on their own on the inside. And yes, some of the other guys grabbed some boards as well, but Tech had 20 offensive rebounds, more than Virginia did. And Gerdak and Hansberry almost had as many as UVA did combined. This was a dominant performance on the interior. Ben Hammond was terrific. He had 18 of his 30 points in overtime, in the second and third overtime periods. And I thought the Hokies' approach to this game, they had to be kind of cautious and careful, because if they didn't, you want to minimize possessions in this game. And I know it looked ugly at times. It felt like a Tony Bennett type of game. But if you let UVA get out and run and get offensive rebounds and second chance points, you're in trouble. They limited the second chance points. They limited the fast break points. As a result, it kind of what you do for the first 35 minutes of the game sets you up for then the possession by possession battle for the next 20 minutes that ended up going into triple overtime. You ended up playing a 55-minute game. You have to be to get to the final couple minutes of regulation and then multiple overtimes. You have to set yourself up in the first 30, 35 minutes of the game. And I thought the Hokies did a great job there. I thought they were really good defensively, terrific on the glass, and they got key performances from so many different guys.
David, what did you maybe learn about Virginia Tech yesterday that you did not know prior to yesterday's game? When you don't have those three guys, the way they rebounded the basketball, the way they fought down the stretch, I mean, heck, the way regulation ended and the way especially double overtime ended, the fact that they found a way to win that basketball game to me was crazy impressive. What did you learn about Virginia Tech yesterday that maybe you did not know prior to yesterday afternoon?
Well, I think we saw Christian Gerdak could start for this team in the ACC if he needs to, and he's a true freshman. And when was the last time a Virginia Tech true freshman big could start? I mean, this is a hypothetical. It's been a long time.
Blackshear, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, and Christian Gerdak, I think it's very rare that at Virginia Tech you get such a smart and ready big to come in and play immediately. And he's been forced into some action. But when Antonio Dorn, he had to come in and play some big-time minutes even in the opener against Charleston Southern. He played well, and we've seen him step up. For him to out-muscle, I mean, we're talking about some grown man rebounds against some of those Virginia bigs yesterday. Johan Grunlow, he's the real deal. I forget how to pronounce the other UVA big's name. And DeRitter is really good as well. And he's throwing his elbows around, and he's going up and getting some big-time baskets. Christian Gerdak can play, man, and he's a true freshman. He's played 14 collegiate games, and he had 17 and 19 against Virginia. I mean, that should not be taken lightly. But more than anything, this team has shown the ability to be in games no matter what. That's the fourth overtime game the Hokies have won this year. Talking to David Teal, he emailed some folks at the ACC, and we got the answer. Virginia Tech in the last 30 years of the league is the 8th ACC team to win at least 4 overtime games in a single season.
It's only January 1st.
Correct. Yeah. The team that did it the earliest before the Hokies this year did it, I think it was Duke in 99, 2000 that did it on February 3rd. That was the 4th overtime win. The Hokies won 4 overtime games.
Actually, before the calendar turned.
Correct.
Yes, exactly.
On December 31st. And the perseverance that they have to show to do so without so many key pieces, it's unique. I think a lot of people, including maybe myself, counted them out and said, well, they don't have necessarily the horses to compete against a big-time team like this. And what they showed was that they have a good team even without those guys. I thought we learned that they have maybe more pieces than we anticipated they did.
They've got 5 guys averaging double figures right now, including Lowell, and that doesn't even count Gerdak, right? So if you get a complete lineup out there, then you've legitimately got 6 or 7 guys that could score in double figures on any given night. When you get Lowell back, you've got 3 players who could have a double-double on any given night. Not many teams have that luxury. They have some weaknesses. That they lack a little bit of athleticism with Lowell out. I didn't know. It wasn't clear to me at what level this team was capable of defending. We knew they were a much better defensive team than they were last year, but that was going to be pretty easy. It's just going to be, are you going to be average defensively, or are you going to be pretty good? So far, they had been pretty much average. I thought they defended at a really high level yesterday, and so now I know what they're capable of. I think generally speaking, Mike Young's NCAA tournament teams have always been top 60 in defensive efficiency. And Virginia Tech was in the 70s before yesterday's game. So they looked like an IT team based on past Mike Young teams. Now they're number 57 after yesterday's game. So for me, I think watching that game yesterday, I see a higher ceiling for this team than I did previously.
Yeah, and I think the defense had to come on in a big-time moment. And I thought, UVA started the game 2 for 13. It felt – I know the Cavaliers missed some shots, but the way the Hokies did it, we talk so much about UVA's offensive rebounding. The Hokies only allowed, I think, 13 second chance points for the entire game. But in regulation, it was 6. And most of those, I think UVA's, that was 3 buckets, and UVA's third of those was like DeRitter with like 2 minutes left in regulation. The Hokies cracked down in that area. Now, what often happens if on your offensive glass, the Hokies had 20 offensive boards and had a lot of second chance points on their own. What often happens, though, is you give up transition points. Hokies only allowed 5 transition points. To me, this was a great scout from Chester Frazier. Yeah. This was a great buy-in from the players. They adjusted the way they needed to. They handled this game exactly how it needed to be handled. Now, there's one thing, it's one thing when you just say, hey, this is how we're going to have to play it. It's another thing to actually go out and do it. And I thought you saw them execute time and time again. And what surprised me was the rebounding.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because I did not think that they were capable of rebounding at such a high rate. They out-rebounded UVA by 6 without Tyler Johnson and without Toby Lawau.
And a true freshman starting at center,
Dorn.
too.
Correct. I did not know that. I knew that Hansberry was capable, and I did not know that Gerdak was capable, and I did not know that they were capable of staying on the floor as well as they did. They only picked up 3 combined fouls, and one of those was in the first minute of the game for Hansberry.
When that happened, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
He's going to get in foul trouble, and literally who else is going to play on the inside for us?
They handled it well. I think they drew 12 combined fouls between the two of them, but only picked up 3. Like, I think Tech is deeper on. I think Gerdak is more ready than expected, and I think Ben Hammond. People are not talking about him enough.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah,
he has been terrific all season long. He's continued to play well down the stretch. You look at the South Carolina game when he had the game-winning bucket. This is a dude who just makes plays, man. Think back to his recruitment, Chris. He was a guy who the Hokies basically picked up in like May, June. He was committed to Rhode Island. And Tech basically was looking around, hey, we can add another guy. Let's go get this guy. And he flipped from Rhode Island to Virginia Tech. And I think Tennessee was also in the running. Mm-hmm. And people, I think, judged him a little bit harshly last year because of how bad the team was, and he was undersized, and he was playing a role that he was kind of thrust into the fire immediately. But he learned a lot, and you're really seeing when same for other guys, he has such good players around him this year. He is thriving. He had 30 points. Last Virginia Tech player with 30 points against Virginia was Eric Green. Both of those guys, Hammond and Green, went to Paul VI in Northern Virginia. I thought you saw a Virginia Tech team that when it mattered really buckled down and made big-time plays. And yes, UVA made some really good plays too. That Chance Mallory tip-in at the end of double overtime to send it to triple overtime was ridiculous. And UVA, this was a rock fight where both teams punched back and punched back and punched back. Virginia Tech easily could have wilted over and did not.
Especially after what happened at the end of the second overtime.
Yes.
That was a punch in the gut.
Yeah, and that says a lot.
The air was kind of sucked out of the crowd there for a minute, but I think Hansberry scored within 30 seconds of the third overtime, and then Tech
actually went down. Tech actually went down in the third overtime. Went down. DeRitter scored immediately.
Yes,
and then Tech basically took off from there.
Yeah, I think it was a Hansberry layup, and then they stole it. Yeah, it was. But the crowd at Cass Coliseum yesterday, without the students there too, like I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was a sellout. was also awesome. Like the atmosphere is tremendous, and the whole like it reminded you of like those like awesome football games of like the late 2010s, or like every other possession they're playing like the stand up and shout. So it's just like the whole game. It was very, very cool. But I'm glad you brought up Ben Hammond, because everybody talks about Neo Abdallas, Toby Luau, Tyler Johnson. You can see why Mike Young wanted to keep Ben Hammond in the fold for his sophomore season. And he's gotten better a whole lot quickly, Chris.
He has. He's so fast from one end of the court to the other. You wouldn't want to face him in a sprint, but you also wouldn't want to face him in a marathon, because when everybody else was wearing down yesterday, he was getting stronger. Like, he played his best basketball in those overtime periods. I thought he was outstanding. Everybody's going to remember the 30 points, but what you should really remember is the 0 turnovers in 42 minutes of basketball, which is insanely hard to do. And the other thing you have to remember is some of those defensive plays he came up with, getting that steal in the corner. He blocked a couple shots. Only one counted in the scorebook for whatever reason. The other one,
but I believe that the first one on Mallory, I believe the stats crew credited as like a lob, like Mallory was throwing a lob to the rim, so they didn't credit it as a shot. But
okay.
But the second one, that was the one that set up the Avdalas run out that he threw the alley-oop to Hansberry.
Right.
I mean, and Hammond also had a tip-in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were a couple possessions in overtime where it was him and Chance Mallory, the two smallest guys on the court, going for rebounds, and Hammond got them.
Yeah,
I mean, you talk about like the fight, like Hammond and Hansberry and Gerdak, but especially Hammond embodies just the fight in this team, I think.
Yeah, they're really, really tough. I think Tech lost quite a bit of toughness when Hunter Couture departed the program, and they didn't have a lot of it last year, but they've got quite a bit of it this year. Adding Hansberry, bringing back Chester Frazier, who was brought up in a program like that, and then Hammond getting a little bit older and more experienced. I think this is just a much tougher team. It's funny, I went to PK's last night to celebrate the new year. As soon as I'm walking in the door, Mike Young is walking out the door. And I was like, dude, that was like one of the grittiest wins I've ever seen Virginia Tech basketball have. And that's what I told him. And one day later, I still believe that. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And then speaking of Hammond, who else was in PKs? Ben Hammond is in PKs with his mom, right?
Yes.
And
Jaden Shue was there.
His family comes like every game.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. And like, we have a really smart basketball team. They know after a big win, I mean, Hammond loves it at Virginia Tech. After a big win, take your mom to PKs. Like, that's where all like if you're going to see boosters at a bar after a game in Blacksburg, it's going to be at PKs.
Yeah, I tell you what, he and Mike Young were not paying for anything.
Right. Oh, God, one of the funniest things I heard at PKs last night is somebody went to the bar and tried to buy Mike Young a beer, and they couldn't do it because there was a line of people already trying to buy Mike Young a beer.
It's funny. Chris walked in. Is Mike Young? Go ahead. You had something.
Oh, yeah, it was a big game atmosphere, not just at the game, but after the game. Yeah. Like, when's the last time you got to go downtown and celebrate a big win at Virginia Tech?
It's been a while.
In basketball, yes.
Or football. More for football.
Yeah, true.
Last year, we just had a coaching change in football. There were no big wins this past year. Basketball was bad last year. So it's been quite a while since, you not only could celebrate a big win, but you also feel like the athletic department itself is turning the page. So what has happened in the last 6 weeks? Virginia Tech has hired James Franklin. They've signed a top 25 recruiting class. Now basketball is 12-2 and 1-0 in the ACC, and they've got a potential first-round pick, and they look like a good team. It's like, so 7 weeks ago, you're pretty depressed, right? And but now it just kind of feels like the tide is turning to a certain extent.
And think about that for a second. Last season, Virginia Tech had men's basketball had 13 total wins. The Hokies are entering 2026 with 12 in 14 games. It's night and day, and that's a credit to Mike Young and the coaching staff for the evaluation and retention and the donors and everybody involved that has built this roster. But you also have to coach it, and you also have to develop it. And I think the guys, even the Sincere Jones and Isaiah Pashas that came in and played some minutes yesterday in certain moments, Like there was that offensive rebound that Amani Hansberry got where he saved it under the basket. That's only possible because Sincere Jones out-jumped the entire UVA team and tipped it to him, right? And that's a little play that goes unnoticed, but you can really just see that it's a really tight-knit group, very high IQ group that plays really well together. And even though they were missing a couple pieces, Christian Gerdak said after the game, he's like, man, we were never afraid. We never worried. We're like, yeah, they're ranked. Yeah, it's a rival. Let's go take it from them. And I think you saw that. They played with that mentality embodied by Chester Frazier and a lot of people on that coaching staff of just, you got to fight. And now the biggest thing is Chris mentioned the defense earlier. You got a big time testing on Saturday against Wake Forest. I mean, it doesn't stop. You got 17 more of these ACC games, and you got to play good defense and play with that grittiness and toughness night in, night out. And that's the challenge, the real challenge. You get one win, great, and it's great for your resume. You're at 14 spots in the net. You're in great position now, and you start ACC play 1-0 without some key pieces. But you've got to do it night in, night out. And that's the challenge. But I think if we saw anything, we saw a group that can do it for 55 minutes, right? And that's impressive.
So
I think it's interesting. Like in-state recruiting has never really been a thing in basketball anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that two of the Tech's best players yesterday are Virginia guys.
yes.
Ben Hammond and Christian Gerdak.
Yeah, I mean, Gerdak's from the DMV.
The DMV, right. Yeah, right. And so was Hammond. Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hammond's
He's from Fairfax.
He's from Fairfax, and Gerdak's. I think he's from West Virginia, but he played at Gonzaga in DC.
But didn't he play for like a?
I think he played with Hammond at Paul VI, I believe, for a little bit.
For a while. Yeah.
And you look at the other side. I mean, we're gonna get Ben Hammond and Chance Mallory. Chance Mallory's from Charlottesville. We're gonna get them going head to head for a couple more years.
Mallory's gonna be annoying as hell for 4 years.
The new Kihei
I mean, imagine it from the Virginia point of view, how annoying Ben Hammond is going to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
this is, I thought this was a great introduction to the Mike Young, Ryan Odom
Absolutely.
rivalry.
Somebody, what did somebody say on the boards yesterday? Virginia Tech has done something that UVA could never do: beat Ryan Odom.
We were talking about that during the game. Nick G and I were talking about that during the game a little bit. Yeah.
And I think it's also appropriate that Geo Heater's in the house with us this weekend, and Ben Hammond goes on a heater. So this will be always referred to as the Geo Heater game because this game.
There you
So
go.
you're saying
Geo's in
PKs.
town. Yeah.
That's so funny. Do we know anything on injuries? Toby Luau obviously was the story going into the game, and it sounds like, he's making progress, but still maybe has a little bit before he's good to go, even though he was listed as questionable. Antonio Dorn was in sweats during the game yesterday, but the one that is concerning is Tyler Johnson, who we thought, maybe was going to be okay after the Elon game, was in a boot and crutches.
My understanding is that Dorn is kind of game to game.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a back thing, and they're not,
When you're 7 feet tall, you've got a big back.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have a back injury of that size, it can take a while.
You kind of take it day to day and see, some of it's pain tolerance, some of it, there are a lot of factors there, of course. And it sounds like he's been practicing on and off a little bit. And it sounds like Toby Luau is progressing a bit faster than they anticipated. Like maybe he might be a week ahead of his scheduled progress. So that's big. Tyler Johnson's the long-term one, from what I understand. Like he might be out, the majority of January, which is very tough considering, it's him going up for a rebound and coming down on like Ben Hammond's foot. And you hate that. But if anything, I think and Johnson's hard to replace because there's nobody that is really as good at the 3 as Johnson, just like Hansberry at the 4. But if you can get Luau back, that I think will cover up some of the rebounding weaknesses there. And if you can continue to play Christian Gerdak, man, what that allows you to do is play Hansberry at the 4, Gerdak at the 5. You get Luau back, and you can maybe even play Luau and Gerdak together. Give Hansberry a bit of a breather. If you wanted to, you could go bigger. Gerdak can't really stretch the floor, but Johnson could. Luau and Hansberry both can. I mean, how about that 3 Hansberry made in triple overtime yesterday? It's a tie game.
corner?
And
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you saw UVA's shot blocking ability early in the game really impact the way Tech was shooting, and then Tech adjusted to it. And Hansberry, I thought, came up big. But this team showed that it can play without some key players. Not that they're, you lose a game, and of course people will be like, oh, well, if only we had X, Y, Z, right? But I think they showed that they are capable playing without some key pieces. And that's important going forward because, for example, you look at their upcoming schedule. The Hokies have Wake Forest on Saturday, and then they've got Cal and Stanford, the two California teams in Castle Coliseum. You've got the opportunity to get off to a terrific start in ACC play without some important players. I mean, hypothetically, they're 3-1 or 4-0 through these first couple games, and Cal is a pretty good team. Wake Forest is really good on the road. Stanford's no slouch, but like if you can get off to a good start, I don't think anybody would have seen that coming. But now, the way you played against Virginia, and I think people are like, man, this is possible. Like, it's not like Virginia Tech just got lucky yesterday. Right. Chris had written about it the other day. The Tech had gotten a little bit lucky. Michi Johnson for South Carolina not shooting at the end of the game. That's lucky.
That is lucky.
But the way they played this game, like they outplayed Virginia yesterday.
Virginia was a little bit fortunate that it went to overtime, I thought.
Yes.
They were.
I thought UVA was good in some of like the final moments, end of first half, end of regulation, end of double overtime. I thought UVA was good in a couple different moments, but the Hokies were better consistently. I mean, the Hokies led for the majority of the game. DeRitter was really good. It took some big-time plays. Hammond finding Gerdak with 4 seconds left for a dunk to tie it, to send it to, I think, the first overtime. Tech had to continue to make plays, but did. The Hokies wore UVA down. Like, I don't think I would have seen that coming before yesterday.
I think there's several things, a few more things I want to touch on before we switch gears. There's probably going to be a few UVA fans watching this that want to talk about fouls. And Tech shot a lot of free throws.
Yeah.
UVA is 263rd in the country in fouls for possession. They've been doing this all year. And Ryan Odom himself has said that he's said it since the preseason that UVA has been doing a bad job of defending without fouling. This is a UVA problem. It's not an officiating problem yesterday. This is an issue that UVA's had all season. And I think that's really one of... So you don't know, it was not luck that Virginia Tech won the game. I thought Virginia Tech played its best defensive game of the season. I thought they had their best rebounding game of the season. And as a result, that they won the game. And I do think they got a little bit lucky, like against Colorado State. I think they got a little bit lucky against South Carolina, but they did not get lucky yesterday.
Yeah. Well, and you look on the other side, Virginia Tech on Ken Pomeroy, free throw attempts for field goals made defensively. Virginia Tech ranks 31st in the country. Virginia Tech has I mean, that was maybe one of the most important elements to that game, defending without fouling yesterday. And the Hokies did that time and time again. And I think you saw that show up. Maybe, I don't even remember what overtime period it was, but the Hokies had a ton of momentum. Castle's on its feet, and UVA turned the ball over like 2 or 3 times in a row. Block shot, turnovers in the corner, and the Hokies are diving, and they're getting in there. And the play of Dallas and Gerdak had at the end of regulation, standing up one of UVA's big men, blocking a shot, and even giving Hammond an opportunity at the other end to get a shot off. Like, Virginia Tech played a great defensive game yesterday, and that was necessary against a team like this.
Since we last recorded with you, Chris, these have been the additions. Again, technically, reportedly, most of them have made it official via their Twitter bios, but these are the new assistant coaches for Virginia Tech football. Norval McKenzie, running backs coach coming from Georgia Tech, also is going to be the run game coordinator. Doug Shear, special teams coordinator coming from UConn. Sean Spencer, defensive line coach, defensive run game coordinator coming from Texas A&M. apparently Vic Hall, former Virginia Cavalier, is coming from Rutgers to be the Nichols coach. And then 247 has reported that Anthony Midget, assistant secondary coach, I believe, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is going to be the cornerbacks coach. So overall thoughts on the new additions to the Hokie staff and what that group looks like as a whole.
I think I'm getting old because I saw Vic Hall play in high school. And now he's a coach at Virginia Tech, which is insane. He's going to be coaching the Nichols. I don't think they know who their safeties coach is going to be. Sounds like Midget is going to be their cornerbacks coach. Man, I think McKenzie, if you look at it, Virginia Tech, it would have made sense to retain Elijah Brooks, but at the same time, Virginia Tech already has so much overlap in the Mid-Atlantic region, especially in Maryland with their other staff members, that you kind of you needed somebody with some experience in the Southeast, which is also in Virginia Tech's footprint. And McKenzie brings that. He's done a good job recruiting in the Southeast in his days at Georgia Tech.
He's an Atlanta guy.
He's an Atlanta guy. Exactly right. Shearer, I think Lustig probably was their number one choice, but he decided to stay at Penn State, which, I mean, look, Penn State's a good job. You don't have to move. You're making a good salary. You don't blame him. But, Shearer, they had a really good special teams unit at UConn this past season. He's been there for 4 years. Didn't start off so well on special teams, but they steadily got better over 4 years. And historically, his teams have been better. We can thank QCP on the message boards for this, but he did an analysis, and I think historically his teams have been 10% better on special teams than his school has been on average from 2007 since 2025. I did a bad job of explaining that on the air, but I put it in an article yesterday. You can go read the article and understand
and I
it.
thought the numbers really showed. I mean, it compared James Shebest to Lustig to Stu Holt to Shearer, and basically says on average, Shearer's special teams units are a bit above average.
Yeah.
And this is the most talent he'll have running a special teams unit, you would think, in a couple years. I mean, he was at UConn, and UConn had 9 wins under Jim Mora this year. But if the Hokies, I get the way you explained it, I thought in terms of when you are a group of 5 school, special teams is important because your best players usually play special teams. And if you don't have a ton of depth, your special teams unit might not be as good.
Yeah, you're right. And also, like early in his career at UConn, man, they were playing like 4 or 5 Power 4 teams a year. They played 3 this past year, but 2 of them were like Boston College and Syracuse. Sorry, Gio.
And Duke. And Duke, they beat Duke this year.
They did beat Duke this year, that's right. But, early on, they were playing like Notre Dame maybe, and some schools like
NC State.
NC State. That will hurt your special team efficiencies ranking if you're not a Power 4 team and you're playing a bunch of Power 4 opponents. And special teams is one of those things where rankings can swing. Like, you return a punt for a touchdown, that's going to have a huge effect on your efficiency numbers. So, Virginia Tech was not an efficient on special teams this year, and I'm not going to try and make the argument that they were. But when your All-American, basically, punt returner decides he's not going to play anymore after the 3rd week of the season, you might have cost yourself a punt return or 2 for the season, which kills your rating. So there was a process. It's just one of those hires. The evidence is, generally speaking, is that he's an above-average special teams coach, but just one of those you just got to trust Franklin and see how it works out.
Well, Vic Hall, he's from your neck of the woods.
Went to Gretna. Yep.
Andy said he covered him when Andy was working in Danville.
Yep.
Hall, I believe, is going to be the Nichols coach.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think Chris and I are both in agreement that it's probably an assistant to the primary coach role.
Right. So you can have as many coaches as you want, but only 10 are recruiters. Right, so we don't think he'll be one of those 10 primary recruiters per se. He'll be an on-campus recruiter, but not an off-campus recruiter.
But I mean, Vic Hall's another guy with a lot of ties to the Commonwealth, and then Minter. I don't know why I said Minter. Midget. Right?
Yep.
Anthony Midget. He's the He's a guy who played at Virginia Tech back in '99, right? He was
starting corner in '99. He got an interception in the national title game as a free safety in that game.
Oh, that's cool.
He's been with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a while.
that national title. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The national title game turned when he got hurt.
Really?
Yeah, he got hurt, and the other starting corner, Ike Charlton, also got hurt. Like they had moved. Like at one point in that game, they moved Midget to safety. And that's when the game turned. He got an interception. Florida State quit hitting all the downfield passes. But then Charlton got hurt, and then Midget himself got hurt. So they had to bring Sorensen back in at free safety, and Sorensen was a really good player, but really wasn't suited for a free safety role against an opponent like Florida State. So at that point, you've got Sorensen back in at free safety, and you've got your two backup corners in. And that's when Florida State roared back in the fourth quarter. I'm not convinced that Virginia Tech wouldn't have won that game if Midget hadn't gotten hurt. Yeah. But anyway, there's your Anthony Midget story.
Yeah, well, he's been with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, of course. Maybe we'll know more. I was wondering when we would start to hear the actual rumors. I mean, it sounds like he's basically on board already, but Steelers are still going.
Yep.
They play the Ravens, my Ravens, for
winner goes to the playoffs.
Sunday Night Football, man. That's going to be so exciting. Sunday Night Football, winner wins the division, goes to the playoffs, hosts.
So you really hope the Ravens can win then, because then he can get to Blacksburg sooner.
Sure.
So you really hope the Ravens win.
Not for that case, but yes.
Yeah.
More so for the Ravens. But I mean, that's everybody. A bonus. Yeah, sure.
Steeler fans would disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
But it'll be interesting. It seems like safety is the only spot that they don't have yet. And so you look at your defensive staff, it's Sean Spencer, Brent Pry, Midget, and maybe you get another coach in there.
Is there an outside linebackers coach?
Yeah, that's kind of the one we don't really know about right now. I think Franklin said on the ACC Network broadcast yesterday during the game that there was only one spot left, and it was safeties and like co-defensive coordinator. Right. So maybe they're waiting on Poindexter. We'll see, but yeah, staff continues to come together, and I think it's in pretty good shape. I mean, Midget. I mean, you have to be a good coach to be in the NFL for as long as he's been.
Since 2014, I think. It's funny, his last college job was a defensive backs coach at Penn State. That was the year before Franklin got there.
He went with O'Brien to Houston. Yeah. Before James Franklin took the job. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think Anthony Poindexter is going to be the safeties coach and the co-defensive coordinator?
I really don't know. I think there's some rumors that he's got an offer also to follow Jim Knowles to Tennessee.
It sounds like there's another offer on the table too.
So I think he's got a lot to go through. Like, on the one hand, he's from Virginia. I mean, he's from, I think he went to Jefferson Forest.
Yes,
it's just an hour from Blacksburg, and I guess he's still got family there and everything. That would be a great opportunity for him. But at the same time, he went to UVA, and he grew up in an era where those players on each school, man, they really went at it and they really hated the other school. So there's that aspect of it as well. I think it's important that Virginia Tech gets an experienced safeties coach, whether it's Poindexter or not. I'd like it to be Poindexter. My understanding is he ran their defense in the ball game.
He got the game ball from Terry Smith for running the defense.
So I would like to add him. I would understand it if he chose not to come. But it's important to me, whether it's Poindexter or somebody else, that it's a safeties coach with experience. Like when Virginia Tech, when Pry came in, he promoted Prelo from analyst, and Prelo had no coaching experience. Like when Justin Hamilton got the safeties job, he coached a couple years at like Clinch Valley or UVA Wise or whatever it's called now. Yes. And I still call it Clinch Valley. But he basically had no experience before he got that job. So, and Tech safeties play has really struggled over the better part of a decade now because of that. And so I think you need to stabilize that. You need to get better. You need to hire an experienced coach there.
I think guys like Jamari Connor and Nasir Peoples at times kind of overshadowed some of those deficiencies. But overall, it's been a unit that has not been good. And I know you lose a guy like Christian Ellis this year, and of course you're going to hurt. I mean, they didn't have much depth on the back end at all. You're playing a guy like Jordan Bass that came in as a linebacker, should have redshirted, and then is starting at safety.
The plan was to redshirt him.
I mean,
right,
but yeah, I agree with Chris. I mean, if you can get an experienced safeties coach, I think that changes a lot. And you put him together with Midget, Pry, Spencer. I mean, that's a pretty good defensive staff. I think Hall's a pretty good addition too. Interested to see what kind of other. You look at this past Virginia Tech staff, they had an edges coach, they had a nickels coach as well. I think that was Brian Whitehead, the nickels coach, and Wilson was the edges coach. So, I'm sure they'll bring in some of those positions because now you can basically have as many coaches as you want, but only so many can recruit. So I'm interested to see kind of how it continues to shake out. That, of course, is like the one big position, but I'm sure they'll have a couple here or there, other guys that kind of come in and help. I mean, as you've seen, Rocco coming in as like the assistant quarterback.
They basically had an assistant coach for every position at Penn State. You had the primary coach, and then you had an assistant to the assistant at Penn State. So I expect it'll be like that at Virginia Tech. Like I've heard Christ is hanging around too. Now I don't know if he'll be assistant quarterbacks coach or assistant wide receivers coach or what.
Yeah,
but I've heard he'll.
I mean, I would imagine somebody like Cam Phillips might stick around. He was the assistant wide receivers coach.
Right.
Fontel Mines is staying. I'd imagine that Phillips might stay as well. So you'll see some of that stuff shake out as well.
Yeah, and the names that you just mentioned, so Brian Whitehead, Nichols coach last year, and then Jairo Wilson, edges coach, those were all Sam Sekas guys too. So you kind of come in with the coaches that oversee that side of the ball. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see all that plays out because I do think there could be an assistant to every single position across the football program. So with that, the portal opens up tomorrow on Friday, January 2nd. I'll coincide that with what do you expect to see the next couple of days? And what is coming up because of that on techsideline.com, Chris?
Well, I was going to write an article like prepping people for the portal today, but that basketball game happened yesterday, so I've been working on a column about that. I probably have that posted by the time you watch the podcast, or maybe not. But I think there's sometimes where your planned content needs to something special happens, like yesterday, and you need to talk about that, right? And yes, the portal's important. It's going to be important. And we're going to talk about it as it happens, but now there's just not going to be one big prep article because I'm working on that basketball column instead. Oh, well, we've got the roster management page. That's pretty much all the prep that you need. But yeah, I expect there to be lots of outgoings and lots of incomings. Most of the outgoings will not surprise you, but there's always going to be one or two or three guys that you weren't expecting to lose, and you're bothered when you do lose them. It's just a matter of who those players are going to be.
Yeah. My message would be don't judge until it's complete.
Yes.
And it might not be complete for a while.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that a new coach is taking over, James Franklin. He's a really good recruiter. You saw what he did with like 2 weeks leading up, if that, to signing day. Yep. He flipped a sub 100 class into a top 25 class. Be patient. We're going to cover it as well as we can. There's going to be a lot going on. I mean, even this morning, I think like Louisville's Isaac Brown entered the transfer portal.
Yes, he is.
Like there's going to be news happening all day, every day with the transfer portal, and Virginia Tech's roster is not going to be complete for a long time. They're probably going to bring in a ton of guys, some from Penn State, you would think, but don't judge. I mean. It's hard because some of the time the incomings and outgoings, they happen so slowly, and it's easy to digest.
Right.
And you go, okay, well, here's the next guy Virginia Tech added. Here's the next guy Virginia Tech lost. It's like there's so much going on. I would honestly say take everything with a grain of salt and reevaluate come like May of what kind of roster does James Franklin have heading into his first season?
Yeah. I pretty much agree with that. And remember, this is the only portal period this year.
Correct.
Right? So it's going to make it even more frantic. And look, the portal only officially opens tomorrow. It's been unofficially open for
yes.
Guys have been unofficially entering the portal for like a month.
For a month. People have taken visits to a lot of schools. I mean, and you have to do that. Yes, it's cheating, but these days you have to do that. Like, you take UCLA, for example. Their quarter starts tomorrow, the day the portal opens.
Oh, true. Yeah, because they're on the quarterly system. Yeah.
Right? I think Indiana's like the same way. Like, if they weren't cheating, they'd wreck their programs. Right?
You should put that quote on a T-shirt. That is awesome.
I know. I should.
Well,
it's true.
And you got a new coach there in Bob Chesney,
right,
too.
Exactly. So, like, there's already been a lot of recruiting going on. You'd be surprised at the number of people who are going to commit like the first 2 or 3 days the portal opens, and you're like, how did he figure out where he was going to go so quickly?
I mean, just think about it from a Virginia Tech perspective. I couldn't tell you how many Penn State guys have entered the transfer portal already. You think James Franklin or the coaches who are on staff who came from Penn State have not already had conversations with them about coming to Virginia Tech?
I mean, they all have agents these days too.
Correct. You'd be lying. Like that's the day and age we're living in nowadays. And it's the same thing goes for anybody else. Like a player at Florida State enters the transfer portal, and I'm sure he's getting contacted by everyone already. That's just, I think it's kind of the unwritten rule. Everybody's abiding by it. So we'll have plenty of transfer portal coverage. It's kind of like a 2-week sprint, though. It's very, very weird. And keep in mind that this is just to enter the transfer portal. Guys can commit way after that.
Whenever they want. So, but if you want to enroll somewhere you need to do it in the next couple of weeks.
Correct.
Because,
the toughest part in all this, Carter, is that so many different schools around the country, because of academics, are on different systems and different like quarter systems. Some people are still on that, and the semester starts at different points in time. So like if you want to be an early enrollee for spring, makes it really difficult if you want to go some places more than others.
And you got basketball stuff coming up too. You're going to Wake and Louisville this weekend?
Yeah, on top of, it's 2:00. We got a women's game today.
Tonight, yeah.
So,
that's right.
So there's a lot of basketball stuff coming up. That was an enjoyable basketball game. Awesome. I think everybody who went yesterday, Gio and Raza Umarani is also in the room now too.
Yeah, he just walked in a minute ago.
I didn't even notice.
I think he came in quietly, which is very nice.
Which he appreciates.
Yes,
yeah.
But I'm sure everybody who went, I know Nick and his wife Caroline were there as well too. I'm sure everybody appreciates. Everybody got their money's worth from yesterday's game.
Did you like your cookies?
I have not had. I was so busy, Nick. I didn't have the cookies. They made cookies that I have not eaten yet. But
66.67% of this people in this room were in PKs last night.
Yes.
That's impressive.
You were the only one that wasn't there. Hey, Nick was in
wasn't
Radford.
Yeah, I do not wish covering a 3-hour basketball game on anybody.
Try coaching one. Mike Young was still there.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and he was in a good mood after. He was in a good mood after the game. And I tell you what, man, that is something you can build on the rest of the year. Like, think about how much. Like, for example, very few basketball games on yesterday, with it just being New Year's Eve. There are a handful, but very few more entertaining. They got more national pub than Virginia Tech.
Right, because one of them was ranked. The others came into the game 11-2.
And anytime you go to triple overtime, you're of course going to get a lot of national attention. So I think I hope the fan base responds well to this. Like, hey, we need to go and watch this team play because they're fun to watch.
Exactly. Let's go all in on this team.
Yeah. To Nick's point, Caroline's cookies are great. I'll answer the question for you. They're very, very good.
Yes, I'm sure they are. I just haven't had them yet.
Yeah, they're good. Well, anyway, appreciate you guys. Happy New Year. Enjoy basketball tonight. Hokies in Miami on the women's side.
Yeah.
So
interested to see how that goes.
So for David Cunningham, Chris Coleman, Nick Brown, I'm Carter Hill saying so long from Blacksburg and episode 462, the Tech Sideline podcast. Have a happy New Year, and we'll talk to you very soon.